This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Underwear drawers are like the Wild West. You never know what you're going to pull out or what shape it's in. So upgrade your collection with the buttery soft comfort of MeUndies. MeUndies' signature fabric is as soft as a warm hug from your favorite sweater. Plus, it's breathable and oh so comfy, making it ideal for all-day wear. Get 20% off your first order, plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Spotify with code SPOTIFY. That's MeUndies.com/Spotify, code SPOTIFY.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey, who at this point, you really regret that you didn't invest in Kleenex stock, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. I'm also full of chocolates, right? Being Valentine's Day. I'm sure the kids will get a ton of chocolate and I'll be stealing all of it. So
Well, okay, that's good to hear. What's interesting is I've got Valentine's Day is kind of complicated for me because I have a daughter that lives in California and a wife who lives here in New Hampshire and a sister who was actually born on Valentine's Day. So honoring these three key females in my life and coordinating things so they all arrive at the same time, that's a little challenging.
yeah, Valentine's Day is always a day you kind of live in fear a little bit. Did you get enough? Did you send it to the right people?
There we go.
So,
There we go. What's the death of a salesman thing? Attention must be paid.
right.
This applies to Valentine's Day as well.
Right. Well, Jim, I'm excited because as the countdown comes, we are 97 days away from the opening of Epic Universe. So just make sure everybody tears that off of their sheet. Basically, if they have the countdown, we're at 97 days.
There we go. Now, and again, just to be clear here, that is May 22nd. And 3 weeks after that, we get the live action version of How to Train Your Dragon. But then 2 weeks after that, we get Megan 2, which arrives in theaters June 27th. Now, did you ever get to see Megan, the really scary AI kid companion movie?
Oh, Jim, what movie did I see? And there was a preview of it, and I was terrorized enough in that 3-minute preview last year. I said, nah, thanks. I'll be all right. We'll leave it to other people to go see those. But it's fascinating. It is quite fast. And I did see that there is a new trailer out, or at least they're talking about it.
A teaser trailer for Megan 2 just dropped, and we're back in the same wheelhouse, just like Gary Artificial Girl. No, but the interesting thing, at least that was so successful when it came out in 2023, the original Megan movie, that of course we got the Megan flash mob at Halloween Horror Night at Universal Studios Florida that year. And I just have to wonder, with the sequel coming out again, June 27th of this year, whether or not the Megan Flash Mob will make a return at Halloween Horror Nights in Florida this year.
Double the size, Jim. That's what we need. More, double the Megans, even more. It's a
no.
Fill the streets. No. I did see the flash mob. I thought that was great marketing and brilliant on their behalf. But I'm glad I was watching from a distance. I think I was a little much to be there in person.
Speaking of Halloween Horror Nights, I want to pivot to the FanFest event that's going to be held out in Hollywood, because the way it's been explained to me is it's the very same folks who've done the Halloween Horror Nights out in Hollywood that'll be handling this event. And by the way, I know we've talked about the dates for FanFest. It starts on April 25th, and then they do select weekends through May 18th. And have to tell you, Eric, tickets went on sale, I want to say, well, we're recording this on February 4th. I want to say it was last week, the last part of January, when the tickets went on sale. And I sprang for tickets. I got tickets for myself and Alice, though I was trying to be pragmatic about it. I decided, rather than getting tickets for the opening weekend, I got tickets for the Friday of the second weekend, because, and look, I mean this in the kindest possible way, but this is the very first time the folks out in Hollywood will be staging FanFest, that weekend that starts on Friday, April 25th. And I feel like that's going to be a learning experience both for the people who are running the event as well as the people who are attending the event. And I kind of want to hang back and, well, first of all, hear what people have to say about the event. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that way I can at least walk in with Alice and make sure that my daughter has a good time. We're basically there for the One Piece stuff. Whereas, but have you heard about some of the stuff that they're going to do? Like you take the tram down to Courthouse Square
Yes.
and and
Yes.
and Doc and Marty and Biff are gonna be there? I mean,
I did. Listen, I'm gonna
oh,
be super jealous. Now, I don't think we're gonna make it out there. We're going out that way. We're gonna make our first trip to Universal Studios Hollywood in August. But so
oh,
we're gonna miss it. But
okay.
I am excited for you to share pictures and show us, Jim. You're gonna have to
Oh,
document this. We're gonna pretend you're a vlogger for
okay. Alright, just look for lots of photos of my fingers in front of the lens, folks.
That's it. No, I'm really excited for you to go out there and really excited. It looks like an amazing event. I was jazzed enough. I'm like, all right, I don't know how I can pull this off, but I'm excited for you guys to go and share what you experience.
Okay, well, one thing before we button up this part of the show, again, what I'm kind of envisioning is that my daughter Alice and I attend the event on a Friday night, and then we sleep in on Saturday, and then maybe over the weekend we go back to the park. And Alice has yet to experience any of the Super Nintendo World stuff, so we're trying to do that. But I figure it will be easiest for us to stay there on site. So I was wondering if Epic Universal listeners have an opinion about what's the best hotel there on site. Is it the Universal Sheraton or the Universal Hilton? I when Disney would fly me out for press events, often as not, they'd actually put me up at the Sheraton. So I don't have quite as much experience with the Hilton. So I'm just wondering if folks have some thoughts about which of these hotels they prefer, especially if you're doing an event that runs late at the parks.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one of the things. I think I was listening to you guys over on Disney Dish a couple weeks ago, and it was Len was talking about the Halloween Horror Nights, and it's you want to stay on property,
Yeah.
and I don't know what kind of benefits you have with some of the from a part, but just being tired and not having to drive somewhere or be take an Uber. That's a smart move. So yeah, I think everybody should chime in
Okay.
and tell you what to do. All the West Coasters that's been out there, I have no advice to you there.
Whatever info folks have, I would love to hear. But
You know what though, Jim? Also, there might be somebody that could help us, and that might be
oh,
today's
oh,
sponsor.
oh, jeez, what an idiot. Yes, of course. And Eric is, of course, referring to Be Our Guest Vacations. And planning your next getaway, let Be Our Guest Vacations handle the details. As a platinum level earmarked travel agency, they specialize in providing concierge level service for trips to Universal Orlando, Hollywood, the Disney parks, cruises, and so much more. And the Be Our Guest Vacations experience team take the stress out of planning. So all you have to do is enjoy an epic vacation. Visit beourguestvacations.com today to get started. And don't forget to tell them that the Epic Universal podcast sent you. All right, so now we get to the news portion of the show, and Eric goes off and does an excellent job of collecting the news of the day. So what do you got for me this time?
Jim, I think this is a very West Coast episode. They just started the bonus benefits, right? So February 1st to March 20th, you have the Universal Studios Hollywood Pass member benefits. So
Mhm.
a good friend of the show, Ashley, she's on the West Coast, and she has sent some wonderful pictures over on Instagram and showcasing a lot of what's going on. So remember, there's a really full schedule this year. Over in Hollywood, they have almost, FanFest isn't the only thing. So this is interesting. And there's a lot of food and drink specials, but right off the get go, you can get some free items. So you get a magnet, which is a DeLorean, I think, getting struck by lightning, which is very fun. And I'm a collector of a lot of those magnets that you get. And then they're doing a scavenger hunt sticker sheet. So, like, you can complete these trivia and you kind of roll around and fill out the scavenger hunt, and you get an exclusive sticker sheet. So did you get to see any of the rumblings? This just happened, so there were a couple people out in the first couple days. Did you see anybody posting some of the FanFest stuff?
I have, for example, Drew was at the press event. A number of other folks I know who work the entertainment news side of the street did the press event and that sort of thing out there. But no, sadly, this is news to me. So what else we got?
Well, they got some decent discounts, so I think this is kind of cool. 20% off food and beverages, and that excludes, of course, Starbucks and alcohol. But popcorn deal, you can buy one bucket and 50% off. So if you want to two-hand the buckets, I guess.
Okay.
But then there's some games that Carnival Game offers. You can buy one, get one free. But a bring a friend discount's pretty cool. So you can get up to 60% off general missing tickets.
Okay.
Express upgrade, so $20 off, purchase the same, and then VIP experience, you can get $100 off upgrade. So it seems like a good time to, this is for the past members anyway. So like you could bring a friend, get people in there, but it seems like you can, take over the parks, and it's kind of like a limited, it's like night type thing. I was asking Ashley because I'm not familiar with it, and I wasn't sure if this is brand new or how this worked. I guess it's kind of like a pass holder night here at Disney. I went to the DVC party, so I can explain. Like I know those where they shut down the park and you only have DVC members, so like you can really walk on to anything. So it seems like this is a somewhat equivalent.
Okay.
But there's a couple of these throughout the year. So like I was going to ask you, Jim. It's just like Disneyland, right? We're trying to get locals and give them the reasons to come out, right?
Yeah, I mean, face it, these are the challenging times of year to get people to come out. And let's not forget, of course, that, this is still a Southern California that only has just contained the Easton fire and the Palisades fire. And so still recovering from all that. In fact, I want to say, did we include as part of this week's show that Universal is actually giving away free tickets to the firefighters, the folks who battled?
I did see something. I don't think I threw it in the notes. It was, but yeah, there is some type of deal going on, right? There's some type of first responders, right? Which is amazing.
Yeah, again, just love that they're doing that. But anyway, well, what else? What else is going on out in Hollywood?
I saw some of this on Twitter and Blue Sky and all the other ones, that there were some complaints over the new locker policy. So I mean, there's nothing to water cooler talk like new locker size restrictions. So, but I did get some information here that they essentially the complimentary lockers are very small. Like so this was new for me at Universal. Like Disney doesn't really have lockers that I know of. So when we went there, there were some rides that you had to. There was absolutely nothing in your pockets, like Rip Ride Rocket. Like they metal detector you, and Velocicoaster, and you had to put everything in the locker. But I guess there's some complaints now that you can't even fit like a Loungefly backpack in these things. So like you're going to have to rent a locker as opposed to the complimentary. And so they're kind of tiny. So that's not going to make a lot of friends at that aspect, but go bagless, I guess.
I guess I can. There's also a part of me that I keep seeing Loungefly bags where it's like, really, you needed to bring your grand piano to the theme park today? I mean, just sort of like, I'm always amazed. It's like you're in a theme park. Why are you like? Let me bring all of this because I'm going to climb Everest as soon as I finish riding Everest.
That's it. So I just thought people should know that, and I would love to hear what people's thoughts are on that, because I saw a lot of talk on X and Twitter and so forth. The other thing was, we just talked about FanFest, as you mentioned. They went on sale, but they did have, if you wanted to, I think NBC.com had a nice little article that showcased some of the food and desserts and the merchandise.
Yep.
Not necessarily the greatest thing for me to talk about here. You guys might be able to talk about it over on I Want That Too for the merchandise, but there was a lot of cool things. But Jim's going to take those pictures and he's going to show us all, right?
Yeah. And I again want to put a question out to our Universal pals, because my flinty New Englander, when it came time to buy tickets, I figured, well, get in early and get tickets. And I just figured, because I wanted to be sure we got some for Alice and myself, so I got the base level. And then, of course, I talked with Testa, and Testa's like, oh, no. You want to buy whatever ticket puts you at the front of the line, because when are you going to do this again? And so now it's like, oh, man. So I want to know, is it possible to upgrade my tickets, or do I need to buy new tickets? So it's like,
Yeah, no, I kind of feel like for these once in a lifetime type things, that's where they get you to pay. And then tickets do run from $20 to
they
373.
do,
So,
they
so
do, and it just but at the same time, for example, that was one of the reasons I didn't wanna spring for opening weekend tickets. I didn't wanna
right.
be thinking that I'm here, for an opening weekend, and I paid $373 a piece for these tickets, and they can't get their act together with the lines or the food or that sort of thing.
Well, you know what, Jim? We'll have a battle cry. We'll get on. We'll have like a we'll game plan for you. We'll get Len. We'll get everybody. We'll get the people over in Hollywood. We'll get all your team together, and we're gonna come up with a touring plan that'll make it to the point where you can just zip through. Right?
Okay, alright, that
A lot of smart people in your network, Jim.
from your lips to Len's ears. But all right, anyway, now, okay. And again, we mentioned earlier in the show that FanFest, of course, is being done by the folks who do Halloween Horror Nights. And we have the dates for Halloween Horror Nights out in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, and Orlando. So it looks like Horror Nights in Hollywood is September 4th to November. They didn't give like an end date from the source I found. And then Orlando starts a little earlier, August 29th to November 2nd. So probably, I don't know where it matches up. Like I said, last year was just a blur. I was getting into the Universal thing. I was just trying to figure out, make sense of everything. So now this year, I think I can really appreciate the houses and all that because I'm kind of like, I know the lay of the land and how things work. So,
Okay.
but for those out there, if I don't think tickets are on sale yet, but you're definitely able to book your dates and figure that out. So
There we go. All right. And speaking of things in Orlando, we have a statue returning to the park, right?
yeah, I missed this. So I mean, obviously, when I went down the 2 times this year, I didn't know there was a Lou Wasserman statue, let alone knew who Lou Wasserman was. So is Lou Wasserman there with Walt Disney? Like I guess
Oh,
the history of the studio is complex to me,
it
right? Like
is.
there's a lot of things going on here.
Is.
Because I hear like Steinberg and I like or Stein, right?
Yeah. No, no, well,
J Bangs and all that stuff. Like I just get confused. I
no,
need a
no,
historian to tell me.
well, that's the thing. And in fact, that's what's fascinating about the history of the Universal parks is that in a lot of ways we are in the early days of the documentation. And for example, again, Lou Wasserman is of course the gentleman who is very heavily involved in the MCA acquiring Universal Studios, and Lou then ran such a tight shop at Universal for years. So it's lovely that they created a statue. But it's always so funny because Lou was such a tall, thin guy that whenever they put this statue out, for example, for years it was in the New York, sort of at that corner coming out of New York Street where you're headed over to
Okay.
San Francisco. But they put the statue of Lou there, and people were like, Abraham Lincoln looks weird for some reason. But I guess now they've
Right.
moved the statue over to Central Park, which of course overlooks the Universal Lagoon there, where we get our nighttime show. And by the way, is there any news about the drones coming back? Because again, they got pulled out of that nighttime show, right?
Not that I've seen. So I mean, I scur the internet and I have my Google alerts set up and so
Okay.
forth. I haven't seen anything yet, but I haven't really watched any live streams. That's one of the things Google or YouTube always sends me is I'll be watching something. They'll be like live stream this show. Maybe I'll check it out and see if they have anything going. Maybe they slipped those in there and we missed it. But
Yeah.
no, but the Lou Wasserman statue is back for all those that were asking.
Okay. And
all the letters that were coming into their shop. But
well,
he is back, and I can't wait to get my picture taken with him.
Okay, and obviously, maybe on a future episode of the Epic Universal podcast, we'll do a deep dive on Lou because again, he's an interesting guy who made some intriguing decisions at key moments that sort of resulted in the Florida parks being a little different than perhaps they should have been. But again, that's a story for another time. And speaking of stories, when we get back from this break, again, we're going to follow up on another wonderful suggestion by my co-host here, Eric Hersey, and we're going to talk about the Muppets and Universal. But first, this. All right, so we're back. And folks, as we were planning out today's show, well, Eric always likes to tie the Epic Universal podcast back to something timely, something that's actually going on in the week's news. And of course, over the past week or so, we learned when Muppet Vision 3D will be closing for good at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
What if an appliance emergency didn't have to be? If your appliances suddenly decided they were done, don't stress. Best Buy has you covered with a wide variety of major appliances from trusted brands, in stock and available now. So you don't have to worry about laundry piling up, refilling the fridge, or that big dinner party you're hosting. Because Best Buy has the knowledge and expertise to get you the right appliance for your home. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Hey guys, back at the playground again, huh?
Yep. You know what this playground could use? A wine country.
Heck yeah, and some waves, so we could go surfing.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
A redwood forest would be cool.
I'm in.
Ski slopes.
Let's do it.
Can a girl go shopping?
Yeah, baby.
Wait! Did we just invent California?
Discover why California is the ultimate playground at visitcalifornia.com.
Which is June 7th of this year. And of course, Mr. Hersey, as he always does, out ahead of the two of us recording an episode of this podcast, he goes out and does some research, and Eric came across something interesting, which was that the second Muppet feature-length film, The Great Muppet Caper, which was first released to theaters back in June of 1981, actually went out into theaters under the Universal Pictures banner. Which, as Eric will tell you, got him thinking, did Universal, out ahead of Disney, actually have the theme park rights to the Muppets? Which, by the way, is not as strange a question as you might think, folks, because actually, if you Google right now, Universal Studios Japan and Sesame Street, you will see that theme park actually has a Sesame Street 4D movie magic attraction, which kind of kills me that Universal gets to keep its Muppet 3D movie.
Right.
But Disney's taking out its, but yeah. But this movie is built around the Sesame Street Muppets. But again, and playing it at Universal's overseas park. But that said, what about Miss Piggy and Pals, or for that matter, some of Jim Henson's other creations, like all those weird things that were in the Dark Crystal, right. Which, by the way, Universal Pictures released at theaters in December of '82. Yep.
Okay.
Some 18 months after Universal handled the stateside distribution of The Great Muppet Caper. So what's going on here? What's the reality between Universal's relationship with the Muppets? What is it the kids in the dating app say, Eric? It's complicated?
It must be.
Okay. So, well, all right. This story, actually, 1969. And Jim Henson is trying to get the television networks at that time, and we're talking CBS, ABC, NBC, interested in a half-hour-long, prime-time, big-budget show starring the Muppets. And to the way Jim Henson thought, look, he'd spent the past decade turning, his felt friends into a reliable act that he could take on the Flip Wilson show, he could bring on the Ed Sullivan show, and they'd always get decent ratings. So it was time for the Muppets to have a network show of their own. But Eric, you'll love this. The thing that actually made this difficult was the November 1969 debut of Sesame Street on public television.
Okay.
So the Muppets are such a huge part of the success of this children's television workshop production that as Henson, as the 60s give way to the 70s, he's talking with development executives at again, the big three, ABC, CBS, NBC. These people keep saying the same things. It's like, oh, I love the Muppets, but aren't they for little kids? It's like, I just spent the past 10 years doing all of these adult variety shows. All right. To prove to these TV development folks, and more to the point, to demonstrate that the Muppets had adult appeal, Jim, on an annual basis, in the early 1970s, begins producing these elaborate hour-long standalone shows, which are supposed to prove that the Muppets, A, can carry a show on their own, that they're not just guest stars on somebody else's variety show, and B, that they can pull a decent audience and good ratings, especially with adult television viewers. So in March of 1969, we get Hey Cinderella, and then December of 1970, we get The Great Santa Claus Switch. May of 71, we get The Frog Prince, which is followed in April of 72 by Muppet Musicians of Bremen. And the irony here is November of 73, we then get Julie on Sesame Street, which, by the way, stars Disney favorite Julie Andrews. And this is an hour-long special on ABC where she's singing and dancing with the Sesame Street Muppets. Now, you're going to love this, Eric. In this exact same window of time, Jim Henson has a meeting with a young programming executive at ABC, one Michael Damian Eisner.
How did I not know this? I don't understand how I missed this fact in Eisner's life. I study this man so closely, but this is new facts to me. Continue, Jim.
This is what I love, all right? Because Eisner actually believes in what Jim Henson is saying, is pitching here. Eisner believes that the Muppets are indeed ready for prime time, which is why Michael gives Jim the money necessary to go off and shoot a pilot for this show. Which, by the way, in fact, want to remind folks, you are listening to this podcast on Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, which is why not celebrate this wonderful event in your life by going and seeking out the Muppets Valentine's Show, which, by the way, originally aired on ABC on January 30th, 1974. Maybe not the best decision to put a Valentine's show on 2 weeks before the actual holiday, but okay.
Right. Okay. They're reminding all those husbands out there, this is the date you need to buy something.
There
right?
we go. There we go. All right. So anyway, this is a backdoor pilot for a weekly Muppet television series masquerading as a Valentine's special. Does okay in the ratings. But the interesting thing is Michael Eisner is a big enough fan of the Muppets that when this pilot doesn't quite get him over the line, it's like, all right, we'll tell you what, here's some more money. Go do another one. All right. And so,
God bless him.
All right. So this is the thing. So we jump ahead now to March of the following year where, all right, Jim kind of buries the needle in the other direction because this one, first of all, it's actually called The Muppet Show. So we have the name of the show he eventually made. But the subtitle, Eric, is Sex and Violence.
Are you trolling me right now?
No,
is this a joke? This isn't real.
No. In fact, what's so amazing about this, and again, you have to seek this out on YouTube, folks, because the Muppets always, when they couldn't come up with an ending for something, blew it up. All right. So what's fascinating about the title sequence for Muppet Sex and Violence is you suddenly cut to a giant styrofoam representation of the two words sex and violence, which they then blow up on camera.
That's how we end these shows every week, Jim. Didn't you know that? It's an audio, so no one knows.
Well, geez, that would explain all the styrofoam around the house. Okay, anyway, so again, that airs March of 1975. Does okay in the ratings, but the problem is that Michael got him the money to make the pilot, but the people who actually make the decision, who are further up the food chain at ABC, are like, the numbers just, that's not a strong enough number. So how then do we get from Sex and Violence, which doesn't deliver the rating it needs, how do we get from that to the Muppet Show that debuted in syndication in September of the following year, 1976? That part of the story we'll share after this break.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Welcome to the White Lotus in Thailand.
It's a wellness center.
You should get a facial. The lady in the airport thought you were my dad.
Oh my God.
The Emmy Award-winning HBO original series returns.
There has been more crime on the island.
I'm a little freaked out.
What happens in Thailand stays in Thailand.
Oh, what does that mean?
It means we're not dead yet.
Amen.
Amen.
A new season of the HBO original series The White Lotus premieres February 16th at 9 p.m. on Max.
And we're back. Okay, so again, just a review here. On ABC's dime, Jim Henson has produced 2 pilots for a weekly Muppet TV series, but in both cases, the Muppet Valentine Show and the Muppet Show Sex and Violence. It's close, but no cigar. But what I love is Jim Henson at this point does something that, forgive the adult language, kind of ballsy. He takes these 2 pilots that he made at ABC and walks across the street to CBS, where he then meets with George Slater, who had previously produced Laugh-In over at NBC, but is now working at CBS as the producer on Cher's new weekly variety show. And Henson tells Slater, it's like, look, ABC wasn't brave enough to make a weekly Muppet TV show, put it on the air. I'm betting CBS is. I bet you guys are brave enough.
That's pretty awesome.
It is.
That's pretty gutsy, but you got to do what you got to do. You got to get that Kermit on the air.
Well, and this is the thing. Slater is intrigued. But before he officially gets in business with the Muppets, he wants to spend some time with Henson, to see who this guy is before he gets in business with him. So Slater arranges for the Muppets to be the guest star on 2 episodes of the Cher Show in its 1975-1976 season. And these episodes air on CBS respectively. The September 7th, 1975. By the way, that's the opening episode for season 2 of the Cher Show. And then they come back on November 16th of that same year, 1975. And as your lovely bride, Lauren, will tell you, Eric, that November in the television world, very important. Sweeps months. That's when advertising rates are set. So, they put the strongest possible shows on in November. So Slater was betting big on the Muppets. And, and by the way, these 2 episodes of the Cher Show were basically shot back to back in the summer of 75. And after 2 weeks of working with Jim Henson, George Slater is so impressed by watching the guy in action that he said, look, come with me. We're going to take this to the CBS brass. But this is the part of the story that's fascinating, Eric, is that CBS at the time is looking for a family-friendly show to basically take out the Wonderful World of Disney over on NBC.
Oh,
all right.
That's a gutsy move.
Well, see, it had been a Sunday night staple since the 1960s, and the belief was it's been on so goddamn long that it's ripe for taking out. People have just kind of forgotten it there, and the right show can take out Disney. And so Slater walks in the door and says, hey, I got the Muppets. And kids and families love the Muppets. How about we have these guys go head to head and battle the Wonderful World of Disney over on NBC? But then someone else at CBS is like, well, wait a minute. We're going to try to take out a well-established family show with another family show? Wouldn't the smarter thing here be counter-programming, like, say, a news magazine that could then go up against Disney? I mean, give the adults something to watch on a Sunday night at that hour in the CBS programming schedule. And so, Eric, believe it or not, this is how 60 Minutes wound up in
the origins of 60 Minutes. No way.
No, well, it had actually started on CBS in '69, but it kept moving around the dial, and it was the schedule, and it was finally somebody decided, no, Sunday night up against Disney.
Makes sense. I mean, it absolutely makes sense.
But here's the thing, it worked. 60 Minutes did so well in the ratings on Sunday night that NBC effectively cancels The Wonderful World of Disney in September of 79. Mind you, they didn't say they canceled it. They said, we're taking it off the air to retool it. We're going to try a new night and blah, blah, blah. It basically died a dog's death as they moved it around the dial and made it unrecognizable, but it got canceled in 81, and that's a story for another time.
I was going to say, it's not because they showed the Mouseketeers at River Country. I mean, that's probably well enough to
That's pretty frightening. Okay, all right, and now back summer of 75. Folks at CBS have said, thanks, but no thanks to the Muppets. And again, we're back to square one, but George is this great guy. He turns to him and says, not to worry. Remember, I used to work at NBC, and I know they're in the process of setting up a brand new variety show over there. And Muppets would be perfect for this. Let me make a phone call. Now, I got to warn you, is this going to be a problem? It's a live show, and it runs late on Saturday night. That's not going to be a problem for you guys, is it? And so this is how the Muppets get involved in the very first season of Saturday Night Live, which premiered.
Really?
Yeah, October 11th, 1975. And I don't know if you've seen the Jason Reitman Saturday Night movie. Sony put that out in theaters back in October of last year, but that movie makes it very clear that the cast of Saturday Night Live, and especially the writers and the Muppets, did not get along. There's at one point an actor playing Jim Henson comes on screen and basically says, I just went into my office and they hung Big Bird in effigy in there. I don't think they like me.
Oh, I'm going to have to seek that one out. I haven't seen that movie.
Okay. So anyway, not a good fit. In fact, by the spring of 1976, the back half of the first season of Saturday Night Live, most of the sketches that the Muppets are in are basically them complaining about, why aren't we on the show anymore? We used to be part of this show.
So they were literally, they weren't like a one-off. They weren't guests. They were part of the weekly show.
Part of the show. And in fact, what's so funny is if you get to those last 5 and 6 episodes, they literally staged them in like the storage area at NBC, where they've been stuffed in drawers or they've had dust cloths thrown over them. It's like, come on, Chevy, let us be on the show.
Okay. I had no idea. That is crazy.
That is crazy. Okay. So anyway, but the interesting thing is that because of this time on Saturday Night Live, Jim Henson learned so many things about what it actually takes to make a weekly television series. He comes away from what, let's be honest, Eric, sounds like a kind of a torturous experience, but with all of this good practical information about what it takes to produce an episode of a television show week after week after week. So this is why when Lou Grade calls and says, hey, I got $3 million. I will fund a full season of a Muppet TV show. And by the way, that's 24 episodes, Eric. So that's $125,000 per episode for that first full season. And Henson is like, yes, absolutely. And whatever Lou Grade says, well, first of all, sorry, it's not going to be in prime time. In fact, it's not going to be on a network. We're going to syndicate. And in fact, you're going to be kind of close to prime time because we're selling the show to run on TV stations around the world between 7 and 8 o'clock at night. And also, you have to shoot it over here in the UK at the TV studio I own, ATV Elstree. And Jim's like, absolutely, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it.
Yeah, at this point in time, he's been rejected so often. It's just like, anything.
And in a weird sort of way, it's the very best thing that can happen to the Muppets, because the Muppet Show debuts in syndication in September of 76. And because it's airing on different days in different markets, for example, Detroit would have it on Tuesday nights, but Chicago would have it on Thursday nights, and then you'd travel up to Boston, and we used to have it on Wednesdays. So it's not in the bright, hot spotlight. And to be honest, the first season of the Muppet Show is kind of rough. It's a show that's still kind of finding its footing and trying to decide which character should be in the spotlight. In fact, what's so funny is that Miss Piggy, first couple of shows, is a background player. I mean, she's literally in the crowd. On the other hand, it's also looking to see which sketches maybe we don't need to do again, like Wayne and Wanda. But by season 2, which kicks off in September of 1977, which, by the way, George Burns, show business legend, is the guest. Muppet Show has hit its stride. More to the point, it's now become a hit worldwide. So this is when Jim Henson, having finally proven the folks at NBC, CBS, and ABC wrong that there is in fact an audience out there for a weekly Muppet TV show. Now it's like, hey, I'm looking for other worlds to conquer, and it's like, okay, Muppets are obviously TV stars now, but do they have what it takes to win on the big screen? And on next week's Epic Universal podcast, Eric and I will continue this tale of Jim Henson's travails when it comes to Hollywood, which, trust me, folks, it did not go well, especially with executives at Universal Picture when they got involved. There is a story we will share next week about an early screening of The Dark Crystal. Happened in March of 1982, some 9 months before this movie finally made it into theaters, which, by the way, Dark Crystal was supposed to be Universal's big holiday release for 1982. This screen, Eric, which was held in Washington, D.C., went so badly. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. We really do need to save that story for next week's show. But because, look, for Muppet fans, there's honestly no reason to end this week's Epic Universal podcast on that depressing a note. But, it went bad, Eric. Very, very bad.
Oh, man. So I'm looking forward to that. So you're telling me I should watch the Dark Crystal before next week. So I got some homework, right? Because I haven't seen that one for so long. I don't remember even what.
I don't know if you slow down for car accidents. Am I asking the right question?
Is it that bad? I thought it was a cult classic.
Oh, no. Oh. There's a lot of movies that are cult classics that are also unwatchable.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'll just watch The Great Muppet Caper again because that's my Muppet movie. That was the first one I remember watching, and that's my jam. So maybe I'll just watch that.
That one definitely has its charms. And by the way, that one was also personally directed by Jim Henson. So, so anyway, but like I said, we'll get that to the next week's show. But until that one gets out the door, Eric, where can the nice folks find you, especially on social media?
Yeah, on social, you can find me anywhere at Eric Hersey. I'm pretty much on all the social platforms. So, Jim, where can everyone find you?
Well, okay, as always, you can find me on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News.
Jim, real quick question. How many reviews does our show need to get for us to get you on Blue Sky? Do you need 100 reviews? If we get 100 reviews in a week, will you sign up for Blue Sky? The people want it. They've been asking me.
Have they?
Yes, every week. Get Jim over here. So give us some reviews, guys. Give us some reviews. We'll read them and then just mention that you need Jim on Blue Sky.
Okay. I had no idea. Okay. So anyway, folks, that is going to do it for this week's show. By the way, though, quick note before we head out the door here. Again, yes, the wildfires in California have been contained, but folks are still getting their arms around what happened. So, and would appreciate any and all help. So you have it to give. Please go check out the American Red Cross. They're doing what they can out there for the folks who lost everything in the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire. And absolutely. Okay, and on that note, that's going to do it for this week. On behalf of Mr. Hersey, thank you for listening, and stick around to find out what's coming up this month over on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode, and if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Lentesta. for animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcasts and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.